So here I am in Happy Valley, and as you can see we have alluvium deposits. And this is mainly just quartz. It might have some feldspars, but I don't really see any. And as you can see, they're well-rounded clasts, and this is quite a thick sequence. So obviously this pond has been excavated out of this rock and built up on the sides, or at least on that side, to make sure it doesn't run off. But as you can see, you got some conglomerates in it as well. So this is a conglomerate rock, but it seems to be too easily weathered, well rounded. And here we have some other rocks on the surface. This looks like a conglomerate, so this is probably the actual bedrock. I can see some quartz. They're quite small and rounded, as well as some other type of rock, which I don't know, probably a mudstone. So here's the actual bedrock. So I don't know what this formation is, so I need to check after. As you can see, it has siltstone, very platy, so pretty much clay, looks like it. And you've got conglomerate rock, so this is another part of the formation. So this is conglomerates and siltstone. So this is a very interesting, also confusing formation, because I haven't actually come across it. Didn't even expect to find this today. So there's more conglomerate, and it's conglomerate because it's well rounded. It's more rounded than the rock that we saw at the Castlemaine formation. So this is it's also quite hard. So it looks like it has smaller rocks. Looks like it might have some shell as the looks like it limestone. In between is the cementation. Could be a calcium carbonate, could be another clay. But there's also some sandstone. Siltstone, all these siltstone's broken up. So we've got conglomerate, siltstone and sandstone. So it seems to be an alluvial formation, which is very interesting. So here we have the Long Forest Nature Reserve. This is where the conglomerates are. You'll see a lot of exposures around this water column and also along the tracks, but in between the flora it is pretty bare on the ground. So you can see a lot of quartz that are present on the ground because this is pretty desolate. It's not high in nutrients and minerals, so the flora needs to be quite hardy. And the best place to see the large conglomerates are here. If you walk around the tracks, you can see a lot of the exposure of sandstones as well as other conglomerate formations. And you park roughly there, and you can see it even from the road. You can see a lot of the quartz and conglomerates. And if we zoom out, you can go down to this part as well, and you can see a lot more of any of the pre-existing outcrops. And if you go down to Pyrite's Creek, you can probably most likely see actual exposures of rock at the edge of the watercourse. And if we do layers of terrain, you can see the watercourse goes around here. Looks like this is not a continuous water source because it's the start of the actual river system. So this is the geological map of the Sunbury, and the part we're looking at. So here is Mountain. So this is quite old. It doesn't have the Western Freeway. It has the old highway system which still exists. And if you want to go to Long Forest, the nature reserve, you need to go down this road here. So that is Long Forest Road. And the actual formation itself consists of two types, or maybe three types, up in the northern part. So where we saw the conglomerates, it is a fin cover. Fin cover, Pliocene and Pleistocene gravel sands and silt, and a lot of it is conglomerate. So that makes these deposits between 5.33 million years old and 11.8 thousand years old. So they're quite recent, not really that old. So that is the yellow deposit. So the conglomerates are all in there. If we have OU, that is the interbedded shale, greywacke, minor grit horizon. So that's the Ordovician upper. It's an unnamed unit, and there is a fault line in which the OLB, so it's interbedded slate, greywacke and sandstone. So this has fossil horizons in it where you actually do find the slate. So that's and all this is not really well, it hasn't been very well described, but this is supposed to be the Bulungaruk gravel, early Pliocene, so around about 5 million years old. And above it is the Red Bluff Sands. Obviously that's in another location. And below it is an unnamed unit of quartzite, rare tough gravel, sand and silt. And this is alluvial, so it's been deposited by a river system. And it's quite extensive. As you can see, this is a former river course. If you follow that. And this would have been a good place to actually find gold or a deep lead. But I'm not too sure if gold has actually been found here. I've read that it hasn't. It's been pretty much barren in gold, and also that's why it is a nature reserve too, because it's nutrient poor. Okay, so in conjunction with the conglomerates that we saw before, I've gone on down the path a bit and off the path, and now we have rounded class of sandstone. We still have some quartz. This is more mineralized. We do have some square blocks, so this is probably from a formation. It's around here, but if you can see, there's a lot more mudstone in this section. So this is only about 100 meters down the path, and we have some more sandstone rounded. It's also been broken with some other sandstones not quite rounded. So these come from, the more rounded would have been probably from a place that's upstream. The less rounded is probably from a closer formation. Looks like the formation's been eroded. All that is pretty much the alluvium. So this is a very interesting formation, and here we have some sandstone with a quartz vein in it. And pretty much you got smaller rounded quartz. The smaller, most of the smaller stuff is rounded quartz. Here's some smaller sandstone. Now there is siltstone in here as well. That's usually placed with the quartz up that way. But as you can see, there's a lot of another quartz vein. So this is a river deposit. It's quite substantial. Maybe it's wouldn't be a delta, probably be a large lake or something like that. The beginnings of a large lake. Could be a delta from, well, I don't know the geological history of this part. I didn't actually look it up before I come here, so that's why I'll make another video and attach it with the geological interpretations. Looks like there's some mudstone they've brought in and some bricks, and you see you can get a lot of the finer material as well. So this is very fine, so this would have been a lot quieter than over there, which the material is actually a lot larger. So this is a very complex environment of deposition. So, without knowing the geological history, what do I think it is? I think it's probably a large river delta. It's probably a bit large. Deposition, it's a bit large to be just a large river or creek. They're usually pretty narrow. See, all that is very coarse. And coming back to where we saw that coarse material. A lot of the quartz is well rounded, but a lot of the sandstone is not well rounded. A lot of it's angular, so this is probably from a closer locality. So here we are in the river system. So the quartz, okay, so here we are. The quartz probably come from somewhere close up, somewhere far away. That's why a lot of it is smaller. And the sandstone probably come from a closer locality. So this has had a lot longer to roll down the river. So a lot longer to get broken down into smaller and smaller bits. But a lot of the sandstone is angular, so it's not been in the system for quite a long period of time. So this has been rolling down river like that. This is probably just rolled on the side, a little bit down river. As you can see, it's not really that rounded. So this made up a rock formation, would be more like a breccia. So that's very interesting. And here we go. We have some sandstone, not really well cemented, easy to break, so maybe it's been weathered quite extensively. And this stuff's been placed on top, so there is a formation around here, the conglomerate, where it comes from. Obviously this is the let me get out of shade. So this is the sandstone that makes up the deposit, but actually no, it's a conglomerate as well. It's got a lot of smaller quartz crystals. So here's more of the conglomerate material. I'd actually like to know the age of this, but this is pretty eroded. It's still well cemented. And no, that shell's recent because I got large brachiopods, large bivalves that live in this creek. And here's a large cement, so don't get confused with the actual rock. So it has a railroad track sleeper in it. Oh, not sleeper, railway track. Most likely going to interpret that as just a river deposit as well, from a locality that's close by when it was deposited.